Thank you, Kiki. My name is Ahmad Shauki. I'm from IPEC. First of all, I'd like to express my greatest appreciation to Professor FIndlay and Ibu Mari for the study on a very important issue, but probably least understood and least studied. In your paper, you show that Indonesia, there's a shortage of services in Indonesia, and you argue that trade of services would overcome some of these shortages. Now, if you look at a number of indicators of competitiveness, you will see in almost all services, countries like Indonesia and I suppose in developing countries in general have no comparative advantage. But at the same time, if you look at some niche sector of these services, for example, in nursing, for example, welding, construction supervisors, for example, Indonesia and developing countries do have comparative advantage. Now, the question is, when you look at free trade agreements, the focus has always been on high-skill services. You're talking about doctors, you're talking about lawyers, architects. There's very little or none discussions or negotiations for the lower level skills such as nursing and the like. My question to both, I think to Professor FIndlay and also to Ibu Mari, as someone who has been in this in negotiation, trade negotiation, is what is the likelihood of developed countries accepting a more liberal stand on mode for trade in this niche of skills? Put simply, I suppose, will there be a time in the next 5 to 10 years where we see welders, nurses from Indonesia, from the Philippines and other countries moving to North America, to Australia, to Japan as easily as lawyers, doctors coming in from this country to Indonesia and other developing countries? I think this is important because from a political economic point of view, for countries, for government such as Indonesia, how do you sell liberalizations in this high-skill services when you don't get anything much in terms of exports in the medium-skill labor and services? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Masoki. Please, the next question. And just a reminder, please make it shorter because we are very limited of time. Thank you.
My name is Peter Meyer. I'm here from AmCham. Ibu Mari, we've known each other for many years, and when you were the Minister of Trade, similar to Tom Lembong right now, there was a lot of progressive movement, which then has disappeared in between. My problem is that I don't see that services, and with my background, institutional protection or in the Indonesian DNA, because Indonesians for centuries have been told to rely on the extended family. That includes services, that includes medical services, that includes education, that includes everything. Ibu Mari, where is the button to push so that we get from this inward-looking concept that's also driving democracy to something that is more open-minded and allows people who are educated from all over the world, not only Indonesians, to facilitate a better situation for this country?
Thank you very much. And one gentleman. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Mubarak Ahmad. I'm from Conservation Strategy Fund. I work in the service sector in the sense of helping government manage the environment and the natural resources better. So I guess that qualifies me for these questions. Let me set the case and ask the question to Professor FIndlay and Professor Pangestu. I just come back from Labuan Bajo, one of the places to be developed as one of the 10 mega wisata, mega tourism spots in this country. what I'm seeing there is that there are many dive operators, there are many resorts, and there are many associated services. And one of them is a pizza store, pizza shop. And guess who is the pizza delivery man? The guy from Italy. Who are the dive operators? 36 or 40 dive operators in Labuan Bajo are Italians company. Only 4 Indonesians, and then 35 Italians, 1 Germany. Only 4 Indonesians, and out of 4, only 2 are operating. And then guess where the accidents happen most? The dive accidents happen most with the operators who come from outside. Why? Because they don't have the knowledge about the local stream and currents. And then, so what I'm aiming at is that how do we guard the impositions of the right standards while promoting the ease of doing business? And this is, I think, Indonesian government is very good in confusing it always. You look at what the trends of the recent policy to promote trade in timber export. Government is watering down the legality standard for the source of the timber. To promote the investment in the railway, the EIA came only 24 hours before it was inaugurated. So I guess there are issues in this area of promoting good standard vis-a-vis promoting the ease of doing business. So here's my questions to Professor FIndlay. How would you advise us, Indonesian government and stakeholders in this case? How do we sort those things out? So we can stop confusing about promoting good standard versus. I don't think it should be versus, but this is actually the questions we are having now. Yesterday there was a delegation of CSO going to President's office talking about this. The government, please do not confuse the ease of doing business with the need to impose good standard. So how would you advise on that? That's my question for the Professor FIndlay. And then for Professor Pangestu, I would love to hear what's your take on the need for affirmative policy in this kind of case. Shall we bring construction workers from China continuously to the future, or the pipe holders for the refinery constructions also come from you know where? So I guess where do we strike the line about protecting the need of our people to improve its welfare versus promoting all of this business and trade? Ari has vividly reminded us that if education, and as Mei put it, if education and training or preparations of skills are not correct, then what we are promoting is more disparity of income distribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Mubarak. And one last question. Again, please, gentle reminder, please be shorter. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kiki from Faculty of Economics and Business, University of Indonesia. And my question is, we know that Indonesia have the deindustrialized issues. So my question is, when the service is increasing, is that creates the import goods-based service, right? Because I think that Indonesia going to the service, but they don't have good fundamental of manufacture. So is this my question is that dangerous for Indonesia to be import goods based service? Because I think that Indonesia is different from China. China have integrated goods for outside, and they sell them to outside. But Indonesia have the different case that Indonesia have intermediate goods from outside and they sell it in inside. So is the danger for our economics or not? It's for all panels. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you. you very much. Very interesting questions. So, yes, there is the possibility of a bargain there because there is very strong complementarity in the demographic structures in our region. And some economies are in a crisis or expecting one in the areas that you mentioned, particularly health. I mean, in my community, when local government draws a line through its health expenditure and projects it out into the future, the health budget takes over the whole of government revenue. The whole of government revenue, according to current practice. So there has to be a revolution in the way that health services are provided in our community. And cooperation in the region is going to be part of the response to that. That's happening because of an ageing society who's living longer. So I can see the scope for a very creative bargain between countries at different stages of development and different demographies in our region to share both training and education to develop the capacity of people in the fields that you mentioned to operate at global standards, and at the same time as having those people mobile in the region. So you cleverly observe that this sort of possibility will help the political economy of reform. Likewise, the provision of services from the recipient, the host countries, into the home countries will be part of the reform agenda in the host country for those workers as well. So I think when you put a couple of sectors together, in this case we're talking education and health, there is really something that can be done in this area. Incidentally, for colleagues here, this is an idea that I used to talk to with my late colleague Graham Hugo about. This was a Graham Hugo idea, a very famous Australian demographer who was also did a lot of work in Indonesia, and this is a Hugo concept. So I think it's got a lot of legs, as they say. I'll prefer to Murray some of the other questions, but quickly. A very interesting question about good standards and ease of doing business. I think probably the response to that is that business is easier to do when you have good standards, and most global companies will want to operate at a standard set of standards which are global. We saw that the benefits of that earlier in the case study of health services, where the Malaysians and the Thais deliberately went to global standards in their hospital sector and provided the local community with better services at the same time as having an exportable service. So I don't think there's a contradiction there between those two concepts. On the question about importing intermediate goods from outside and selling inside, exactly. In our paper, we're more concerned about that being the problem. That it looks like Indonesia is relatively less connected to global value chains and therefore is not capturing some opportunities associated with those chains. That the import of intermediate goods is destined for the domestic market. It's not got a high share of imported intermediate goods in goods exported from Indonesia. And our hypothesis is that it's the quality of the service sector which is an impediment to raising that share. So you asked about a risk. I really see it as an opportunity for gone, for not capturing that, not having the services infrastructure in place to be part of the value chains in the region. But I think that's a topic that's coming up later today. And finally, moderator, let me say that Dean Ari made some really important points in his comments today. I'm much taken with the notion that there could be, as I understood what he was saying, there could be the same sort of hollowing out process in the service sector as we've seen in manufacturing, where there's some people who are in high productivity jobs earning high incomes and a whole bunch of other people not. And that, I agree, that is an issue, and the response to that is, as he suggested, a human capital investment campaign. But he also made very interesting points about the relationship between urbanisation and the growth of the service sector, and that's something that I think deserves a lot more study. It certainly looks like a relationship. There's a famous chart produced by the Asian Development Bank. It's almost a straight line, you know. The level of urbanisation, the share of service sector in the economy is almost a straight line. And there are a number of mechanisms at work there in both directions. I think that urbanisation creates possibilities for a growing service economy. A better service economy supports the attractiveness of urbanisation. And for the researchers in the room, I think there's some good work to be done in understanding that two-way relationship. But I take his point that, and we didn't elaborate on it in the paper, but it is an important observation that the growth of, there is an issue to be managed in the growth of the high productivity service sector, which is the risk of a rise in disparity.
Unfortunately, we have a number of ministers waiting to give the luncheon talk, so I was told that we have no more time. So I'd like to just, I will answer all your questions individually, and I will catch you during lunch or whatever, but we can also certainly follow up privately after this. But I think we are being asked to move for lunch, right? So thank you everybody for all your questions and your inputs. We really value it.
Just a short announcement that if you would like to know details of the presentation, you can find in BS Journal, volume 52, number 1, 2016, AU. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.